Do not fear any of them.
Okay, so we're here. Let's lighten it up a bit if we can. Oldham Council wants your view on the redevelopment of Spindles Town Square. Now, I've seen my proud of Oldham friends have much make much out of this, and who can blame them? Who can blame them? Let me let me make sense of this. Okay. At the time Sean Fielding bought Spindles, there was nothing in any of the development plans, any of the business plans that said Spindles. There was nothing in any of the business plans where the aspiration was to buy Spindles. It just wasn't there. And when he bought it, one of the first things he said was that he wanted to give Tommyfield Market a new home. You can see it there. The council planned to provide a new home for Tommyfield Market. The problem with that, well, there's two problems with that. The first problem with that was only months earlier, Sean Fielding was on record for stating the importance of redeveloping Tommyfield Market where it was because of its historic significance. And the second issue with that is that he hadn't told any of the market traders in Tommyfield Market that they planned to move them into Spindles, and nor had any of them been involved in any discussions about moving into Spindles with the council prior to the council buying Spindles. So yes, the People's Spindles, yeah, so the Communist Party, the People's Swindles, more like. Now, Sean Fielding, when he bought it, he says, and they're pushing this narrative, you can see it. The council purchased a landmark building at a cost of £9.5 million. The council did not purchase it at a cost of £9.5 million. It was £9.5 million plus fees, stamp duty, etc., etc. It comes in closer to £12 million. But hey, when it's not your money, what's a few £1 million between friends and developers? And then, after they purchased it, they tried to keep the price hidden. And it's only through public outrage and mockery, because remember, he bought it at a time when they'd announced cuts to essential services because they had no money, but he managed to find some beans to buy this. They confirmed it was £9.5 million. And then it comes out, the council say they are exploring options to further redevelop the shopping centre as part of their economic and COVID-19 recovery plans. As part of the plan, the council now wants to hear from Oldham residents who can share their ideas and thoughts on the development of the centre, which originally opened as Town Square Shopping Centre in 1981. The Spindles was added in 1993. Okay, so he wants your views and opinions. Did he ask for your views and opinions when he bought it? Did he ask for the market traders' views and opinions when he told them they were all moving in there? Did he ask anybody? The question really isn't that. The question is, did he even know when the council decided to buy it? Because I don't believe he decided to buy it. I don't think he understands any of the complexities of this. And at the beginning, he stood outside Spindles after it has been announced we'd bought it. He said something along the lines of all the I's have been the T's crossed in all the dots and crosses, whatever the phrase is. All of that had taken place. There was a clear business case because he described it as a bargain. So if it was a bargain, he described it as a knockdown price, and the business plan existed. People have challenged him. People have challenged him to release the business plan for the purchase of Spindles. He's mocked them. he's come out with "you show me yours and I'll show you mine" sort of nonsense. To which one person rightly said, "Sean, you're the leader of the council. I'm just a bloke on the street. I didn't go and spend over £10 million of public money buying a shopping centre during a pandemic when shopping centres across the country are going bankrupt. And since he bought it, Top Man have gone. And the biggest anchor tenant, Debenhams, has gone." It reminded me of a friend of mine going and part exchanging his car or selling his car because he knew it was going to fail its MOT in a couple of weeks and it'll cost 3 times more than the car was worth. So the bloke who drove off in it felt he was getting a bargain. My mate was just relieved he'd got something for it. But he now wants to hear your opinion. "We bought Spindles with a clear aim to support the future of Oldham. This includes providing Tommyfield Market with a much-needed new home, ensuring Spindles Town Square has a wide-ranging offer that isn't just focused on retail, and to unlock land for new homes, a new park and a public open space." He's omitting something very, very important there. His omission is not accidental. To support the future of Oldham. This includes providing Tommyfield Market with a much-needed new home, ensuring Spindles Town Square has a wide-ranging offer that isn't just focused on retail, and to unlock land for new homes. He's omitting from there that his officers saw the purchase of Spindles as a way of moving out of the civic centre. And during a pandemic, during a period when the town's finances are in a complete mess, his officers want fancy new offices. This metropolitan elite that come in from Charlton and Didsbury want new offices. They want what Rochdale's got. They want what Tameside's got. And Spindles, at the additional cost of tens of millions, will facilitate the move out of the civic centre and into the fancy new 5-star fitted out council offices. So that's what he omits there. What he also omits, to unlock land for new homes, he wants to build houses on the old Tommyfield site, all the way to the old sports centre. And he wants to create, I don't know, what did he call it? A pocket park, strips, God knows what. There's some idiot came up with some description for a patch of plastic grass, I think. And he believed, and he's quoted again, that people will choose to live in and around the old Spindles on the Tommyfield site, backing onto St Mary's housing estate, backing onto all the HMOs that have recently propped up around the town centre, including the old court. He believes people will choose to buy houses there instead of living in Greenfield or Saddleworth or other places in the Greenbelt. Linear Park. Thank you, Anita. So he believes that people will choose to buy houses. So unlocking land means the council will sell that land to some preferred developer. Who's going to buy houses there, Sean? Will you live there? Will any of you live there to buy houses? No, I'll tell you what's going to happen there. They're going to have housing association houses, social housing, which I haven't got an issue with, social housing. But what I do have an issue with is if you build social housing in the town centre, you've lost our town centre. And the people who live there don't have the wealth to service the town centre. Now, if you had spent all this money and your plan was robust and you'd done all the things you've meant, you claim you'd done, why are you now asking the people for their ideas? We want everyone to have their say. Your opinion and ideas are so important. It's an opportunity to tell us what you want from the future Tommyfield Market and Spindles Town Square Shopping Centre, and for us to learn from this and feed them into our plans. I thought you already had plans. The next bit's hilarious. Initial plans include a flexible contemporary workspace to appeal to new entrepreneurs and growing sector like creative design and media. Manchester is full of such spaces. They're all struggling. Post-COVID, entrepreneurs are working from home or working in different ways. Look at the virtual stuff. He wants to create this co-working hub. What on earth is he on about? One of his officers will have seen it in Manchester and thought, we want it in Oldham. That's the problem with Oldham. It's run by people who have no love for the town and no interest in the town, and they just want to use it as a stepping stone. Instead of building on our assets, they want to replicate what is already failing elsewhere. By making the town centre a family-friendly, accessible, inclusive place to live, work and spend time for leisure, we can breathe new life into it and ensure it has a sustainable and thriving future. I bet my motorbike he didn't write those words. By making the town centre a family-friendly, accessible, inclusive place to live. So he's admitting he wants to replace the town centre into a residential area. This man's dangerous. Now, we already know his chief executive has practically done a runner and is based in London. She's not coming back. So the question is, who is running Oldham Council? They won't tell us. It's a legitimate question. Who is the senior officer in charge of Oldham Council? And if it is Carolyn Wilkins, how many days or hours a week has she ring-fenced for Oldham? Remember, if she was of that significance to be taking somewhere in the region of £250,000 a year, and that she's been pulled out of this town, who is filling that void? And the last line, most importantly, these new development plans will ensure we can create jobs and apprenticeships. What development plans? The ones you want people to give you? No, he's living in La La Land. He is living in La La Land. He did, didn't he, March? He didn't want a clone town. But little did we know at the time what he meant was he didn't want a town centre at all. That's the question, isn't it, Kim? Have they even asked anyone who wants to live in Oldham Town Centre? Surely that bit of research would have took place. Who wants to live in Oldham Town Centre? Who'll pay £200,000, £300,000 for a house? Because remember, he's comparing the people who would ordinarily choose to live in the Greenbelt and they'll instead live in the town centre. The town can be rescued, Gary. The town centre can be rescued, and we can create an Oldham-specific offer. And it is that. It's about rent, free periods, reduced rates. Now, all of you know of the success of the Northern Quarter in Manchester. And around Tib Street and all of that area, all the way up to Ancoats. I had an office there towards the end of Peacemaker where I was running projects in Manchester, and also the people who were coming up from London and various places who wanted advice, and we were charging a lot of money for our services. Didn't want to take the second trip from Manchester to Oldham. So I rented an office on Port Street. Now, Port Street is now in the hipster part of town, around the corner from Piccadilly. It's in the northern quarter. My rent for an office bigger than an office I had on Union Street was a third of the price. And all around me were entrepreneurs in Manchester who took over these knackered old buildings. But the one thing that had brought us all there was it was cheap. It was cheap. And it was accessible. It was round the corner from Piccadilly train station. There were a couple of nice bars and restaurants that had joined in at the time of seeing the change in demographics. It's still rough as anything. 2 or 3 times a month I'd have to go at 3 or 4 in the morning because it'd been broken into. But over time it changed, and it worked because it was cheap and it encouraged people. What we've got the Tommyfield market traders worried that the rates, the costs are actually going to increase by moving into Spindles, and he's not providing the reassurance to them. Wow, if that's true, David, I am... Rebecca Sutcliffe is running the show. She's the next chief executive. This is Rebecca Sutcliffe, who was shoehorned into Oldham Council by the police after being found guilty for gross misconduct for getting her boobs out and being aggressive to some other woman. She was found guilty of gross misconduct. Shoehorned into a temporary secondment at Oldham Council, and then found herself using the official title that she was later to be employed in before the interviews had even taken place for the job. I'm not joking. It's all a matter of public record. So, Sean Fielding wants your views. Meanwhile, Andy Burnham, and I know some of you want to talk about Andy Burnham because he's up for re-election as well. He'll win, by the way. The South Manchester elite will all vote for him because they've all done very well out of Andy Burnham. And also the Muslim bloc vote from all 10 of the Greater Manchester areas will make sure he gets in. So he'll win without a shadow of a doubt. Did you all know that you pay this mayor's precept, a mayor's element of the council tax, which pays for his salary and all of his officers' salaries? Well, he's apparently plans to freeze it, so he's doing us a favour. So £70 to £90, and this is all separate to the fire bit you pay for or the police bit you pay for, and it includes paying for his bed every night scheme and his bus trans stuff and his, I don't know what the bicycle scheme was called in the end, B lines or something, where he was spending millions or billions of pounds on making bicycle routes so the elite from South Manchester could ride their bicycles into Manchester, because ordinary people, working class people who have that challenge, I think they'd rather put. It's just hard. It's just hard to own a bike in a house, a 2 up, 2 down, and also ride a bike into 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning into a manual job you're doing. So, but no, he's spent millions, tens of millions on this B-lines thing. He's spent God knows how much on his bed every night scheme that has failed, comprehensively failed. And he's gone very quiet on his pledge to end rough sleeping. He's going to finish it in 1 term, remember. And all of my friends who worked in homelessness said this man is arrogant beyond belief. He's driven by his ego. They left there. The Orange Bike Company left. They left because too many of their bikes were being just destroyed in Manchester. But he spent a fortune. Type it up. You'll see. It's called B-lines. Your council tax is going up by 3% or 2.99%. Yes, Paul, you promised to end homelessness by 2020. Yeah. And the Lib Dems reveal an alternative budget. All gobbledygook, all nonsense. Chris, Gloucester, all the rest of them. The Lib Dems are a completely spent force in this town. They've retreated to the Samaham Al-Hamdani position in Leeds or wherever he is, and the guys in Shaw. Complete waste of time. Run out of ideas, nothing left, nothing useful to say, and yeah, your council tax is going up. Record council tax rates, and it's going up. And I heard one of them say recently, oh, but it's going up by a lower amount than it is elsewhere. Well, when your council tax is one of the highest in the country already, going up by 1% less than in somewhere else where it's already the lowest in the country isn't something to no, it's not something to consider a success. These guys, yeah. Is it a sale or return budget? Maybe they want to cut duty on alcohol or add a duty on alcohol. We don't know, do we, Mark? Bashforth, Barrelgate Bashforth, the bootlegger. Oh, he's not happy, by the way. He really isn't happy. Him, his wife, and the other councillors in Royton. Oh, I'll let me bring the screen up whilst I impromptu bring you up to speed. Him, the other Royton councillors are fuming because of us. They've worked out actually what's going on in their own backyard, because up to then, none of them would say a word because they'd not figured it out, because they're too busy with the Barrelgate, taking the beer and making sure that they claim their expenses, every last penny. And what took place around them was they've suddenly realised that their seats are at risk. And their seats are at risk because in Royton, the Labour Party controlled council is effectively supporting a scheme that Andy Burnham wants, which will build an incinerator the height of the civic centre. An incinerator the height of the civic centre. And the people of Royton are outraged. And one of the responses was, but it'll bring jobs. That's what they said about the asbestos factories, wasn't it? It'll bring jobs. It doesn't matter what the long-term problems it'll bring to the town. The health, the fact that our children will be, the poisonous glasses. No, none of that makes any difference. It'll bring a handful of jobs. These guys are fuming. And they've gone running to the real leader, JIM McMAHON. And that war is escalating between McMahon and Fielding and Burnham. It's going to get interesting to see what happens there. You notice that Fielding has refused to issue a statement. So whilst he's mouthing off about anything and everything on Twitter or Facebook, he's refused to issue a statement on the incinerator in Royton. McMahon's issued a statement. Barrelgate's finally issued a statement. Debbie Abrams has issued a statement. Unfortunately, she was complaining about coal mining in Cumbria, not about something going on in Shaw. Or Royton, sorry. But, it's close enough to her. So that's no surprise, is it? Did he think she realises who she's actually an MP for? Yes. 3 miles away from the eco farm. Absolutely. It's just behind where the blue tiffin is where it'll be, or is where they plan on being. So, yes, Paul. Anyway, your council tax is going up. Apparently there's an alternative budget, but it's all nonsense. It's just going up. And remember, they're saying, oh, we're having to use reserves now, and we're doing this and we're doing that, and our council tax, and we have no choice. We have no choice. The government's took all our money away from us. I don't know who Chronic Oldham is. He's been doing it far longer than I have. And I think he's a thorn in their side. Oldham Council has spent over £500,000 in 13 months with a HR and payroll software specialist, despite wasting £2.1 million on a new HR system called A1 in 2017. So they spent £2.1 million on a new HR system called A1, in case you wanted, there was any doubt of how good it was going to be. A1 in 2017. And now they're spending a fortune on a HR and payroll software specialist. One for you, this, Paul. Have a look at that. Look at the payments. Again, nothing from Sean Fielding. Less than 2 years later, the council had already made the decision to replace the software with a new system. Today, we trawled back through OMBC's published spending accounts and found that between November 2019 and December 2020, Oldham Council spent £512,671 with specialist HR and software provider MHR International UK Limited. Is this the best use of Oldham Council resources during a pandemic? How can the council justify any increase in council tax whilst having a cavalier attitude to its public accountability for spending priorities? In 2017, in what went over budget at the time, of course it went over budget at the time, at least £2.1 million was spent on their A1 HR and payroll system. A payroll system that clearly is now not fit for purpose. That's the 8 million you know about, Paul. I've seen some of the FOIs Paul's been firing off, and they're interesting. The hiding of activity behind the logo, the Oldham, the Polar Mint logo. I think it cost £1 million or something in the end, or just short of £1 million. The council are being very evasive with Paul as to what the money was spent on. Now the problem is, most of us who were in and around the council at the time know what the money was spent on. It went on lavish trips overseas, 5-star hotels, business class flights, and I think it's Paul Entwistle who's trying to hide it all, and it's not going to end well for Paul Entwistle, I think, because Paul Harrockson will giving him a good run around, because he's asking questions, and he's got every right to ask questions. What did you spend on making this new Polo Mint logo? You spent the best part of £1 million, but what would he actually spend it on? It'd be ridiculed even more, Ian, if they knew what they spent the money on. Trust me, it's absolutely disgraceful. Yeah, and Mark, it is our frigging money at the end of the day, and that's the problem I have with the Lib Dems and I think the Tories are just tired, Mark. I think the Tories are, I look at the demographic of the Tory councillors, and I think they're just tired. And then I look at the Lib Dems, and I think they're in bed with the Labour lot. They're just, they're just happy to go along, token opposition, whilst they're feathering their own nest. This town needs new leadership. It needs invigorating, weird people who care about the town first and foremost. And hopefully, because the elections are going forward, hopefully we get at least one of you guys over the line. It's the 0-hour contracts, Paul. I have a massive issue with them in the public sector. I have a massive issue with them. I also have a massive issue that the person at the top earns more than, 15 times the person at the bottom, 20 times the person at the bottom. I find that disgraceful. The chief executive of the town should not be on twice the salary of a prime minister. and not just in Oldham, across the board. But it's what happens when you can essentially set your own salaries, or when the councillor's in charge, you've got dirt on the councillor's in charge, and the councillor's in charge know it. Because let's face it, what Sean Fielding has done and what we've gone through today, in any functioning democracy, he should be sacked. He should be suspended, investigated, sacked, prosecuted. I noticed that as well, March. The new announcement for the warehouse in Chadderton could bring 450 jobs from investment partners. So the people who are building the warehouse have got nothing to do with what's actually going to be in the warehouses, who's going to take up. So, yeah, they take us for fools, Mark. There's no 450 jobs. They're just making it up. They've just been making it up for years. Okay, I'm kind of done. We've been at it for a couple of hours. I really wanted Kath on. We'll see where that goes. It's got it's got some distance yet to travel, I think. So I can see the exchanges from people who have been very keen to push this private prosecution argument forward, and it's difficult for the people who are on the front line, who are dealing with this, the victims. It's difficult. It'll take up their lives, and even if we raise the money to support them, and it'll be tens of thousands of pounds. Make no mistake, it'll be tens of thousands of pounds, even if we raise the money for that. If we lose, as say our valleys are finding out and some of the others are finding out, if we lose, then the other side put in a cost for their expenses. Who's going to pay that? Let me bring the desktop back up, see if there's any last comments, and then we'll move on. So yeah, any questions, fire them at me before we round up for the evening. He still won't answer a simple question, will he, Paul? He won't answer a simple question. When did he know that his mate, his fellow shore councillor, had been arrested, charged and convicted for child sex offences? Victor, I've seen information elsewhere where he's had the Labour Party pay for his legal fees or his legal advice. It had nothing to do with the Labour Party, but he had the Labour Party solicitors get involved. He had someone else pay for it, Victor. Emma, I refused to go to my meeting on Thursday. After I got off with you guys, a police officer friend of mine phoned me and said, Raja, you've got a meeting with the police on Thursday. You do realise the chances of someone stood outside a police station taking a photograph of you going in, and if someone took a photograph of you going in, they'd just use it to push the narrative that you're a police informant. So please don't go. So I contacted the police. I told them why I wasn't going to go. They offered to meet over the phone. And I said, no, I'd rather have the stuff in writing. I'd rather have an update on my complaint. Remember, my complaint, as well as the stuff around Sean Fielding, includes the unlawful sale of Glodic baths. It was unlawful. It was bribery. It was a way in which an election could be rigged. We don't allow those things in our country. Clearly, they're trying to cover that up as well. Because I don't see anyone arrested. I don't see anyone questioned. But it's unlawful. What took place was unlawful. Anyway, I didn't go. And then I reported, in the end, the will be to 101. And as a consequence of reporting them to 101, it got picked up. And I'm now waiting to give a victim statement because clearly, as the police had acknowledged, being made reference to as a police informant repeatedly puts an individual's life at risk. So let's see what happens there. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Indeed, Paul. Paul, I think next week we've got Debbie Cole on. Debbie Cole, well, it's her story in her own way, so we're going to get Debbie Cole on, and I think it's It's a sorrowful place, really, we find ourselves in, where even those who are entrusted to protect the people of the town, we find that they failed us as well. And the reason they failed us, we all know why. I will bring myself back up. I'll see you all next week. Thank you very, very much for taking the time on Valentine's night to listen to me. I'm just looking, and there's 50 of you here, so 50 people. Happy Valentine's night. Enjoy your rest of your evenings. Thank you for taking the time out, and hopefully I will see you all next week. Take care. Good night.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.